This is Tam DeBolt and my co-host,
Caleb Clark,
for our 24th episode of Terrific New Theater series called
Who's Zooming
In? Ba-da-da-da-da-da. Here we are. All right, friend, it's good to see your face. Did you have a good Monday?
I had a wonderful Monday. This weather is glorious.
It was
It's
today.
spring.
Tell everybody why we do this series, Mr. Clark.
So Who's Zooming In was started because we miss our people.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a pretty good feeling that our people miss their people.
That's right.
So this is a great way to catch up, to find out what our friends are up to during the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
and to make some new friends as well.
That's right. You are correct. And you always tell me that there's a couple things that you want to make sure I don't talk about during the course of the interview. So go ahead and give me my 3 items that are off limits for tonight.
Number 1, botulism.
Oh, dear Lord.
We can't talk about it.
Not a problem.
Number 2, pollen. I don't want to talk about pollen because it's everywhere.
Pollen, I'm going to say this about pollen. It nearly killed me this weekend. That's all I'm going to say. Number 3.
Tam, do you know what Dunkaroos are?
Are they donuts?
No, you would think, but they are these delicious cookies that they used to sell when I was growing up that you dip in the most delicious buttercream icing. They're like in a little, we can't talk about the fact that Publix has them, and maybe I bought 7 packs today. We're not talking about it.
We have someone that's joining us tonight who is a familiar face to those who love theater in Birmingham, but he's got 3 kids at home. And he is married to a health professional. We're going to talk about that a little bit. He is a co-founder and former artistic director of 2 theater groups in Utah. We're going to talk about that tonight. He's performed at Terrific New Theater, Birmingham Festival Theater, Theater Downtown. He's directed at Theater Downtown. He also serves as the vice president of their board of directors, if I'm not mistaken. He'll correct me on that. And currently, he is at the Birmingham Children's Theater as their associate artistic director, Alex Ungerman. Would you zoom into the Zoom room, please, with us? There he is. Thank you for being with us tonight. Look at you.
I am thrilled to be here with you, Tam and Caleb.
Look, and all the kid drawings in the background. Look, what's the rainbow over you?
Yep, these are all from my daughter Zelda. She's 5 and she's turning 6 in about a week.
Since we're talking about the Zelda and the drawings in the background, I have to share this photo.
It's so sweet.
Look at that.
Yeah, my little babies.
And you said this was taken about how long ago?
This was a year ago. I think we would get a little bit better cooperation from the kiddos now. They're just a little bit older. My little baby has just been walking up a storm the past couple weeks. Those cowboy boots do not fit my son anymore.
Look at Elisa there. Tell everybody her health professional journey through this pandemic.
Elisa and I are celebrating 10 years of marriage this summer.
Wow.
And we got married when she was in medical school. She is an OB-GYN doc, and she specializes in high-risk pregnancies, which is maternal fetal medicine. And she is in a fellowship training program at University of Alabama. We were really worried initially that she was going to be pulled off of her service and maybe be put on another service carrying
make her work in the COVID unit or something. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Luckily that didn't happen, and we're very grateful for that. But it was pretty crazy, especially, the first, I would say 3 or 4 months when we really didn't know what the contagion level was. She was doing some pretty extensive cleaning measures. We would never use her car that she would take to the hospital. She would leave her shoes in the car, and then she would come inside and immediately put her scrubs in a different laundry basket and shower before interacting with any of us. Yeah, it's been pretty crazy. And then to her say, like, on occasion, there will be a pregnant patient who has COVID. And so if they need a consultation, then she's had to go into the COVID unit probably about a dozen times. And when she had to do that, she had to get in a spacesuit, basically, and do a double decontamination going in and going out.
That's got to make the entire pandemic so much more immediate for you. Like so many theater professionals, we kind of have been able to sort of burrow and avoid so much, but for you it's been really immediate, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been very serious. It's made it very immediate to me, like how can we continue to connect with our audiences and connect with each other as artists when this health situation is so serious.
Right. This is the first time I think Alex actually and I got to work together, but he did a show at Terrific New Theater. Look at him standing there on the set of the Royale.
Great picture.
We had some casting changes late in the game, and he came in late in the rehearsal process and jumped right in, and he was something else. It was a beautiful, beautiful performance.
I love that script. That was a really phenomenal script. I'm so glad you picked it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And I'm glad you were a part of it. And I know you've done some stuff at other places. Right when the pandemic smacked us, hadn't you directed a show at the Festival Theater, and it was on stage, just like Caleb and I were doing A Doll's House, and we were shut down. I left the set up till July.
Yeah, I had this script that I had been itching to direct, and finally over the course of a year had gotten Birmingham Festival Theater to agree to produce it. And it's called The Ice Front, and it's this wonderful script about a group of actors in Norway during World War II. And the National Theater in Norway, after Norway was taken over by the Nazis continued to fund cultural programs because they were trying to demonstrate their cultural connection to the Norwegians. And so these actors who had been on payroll stayed on payroll, but the Norwegian people as a whole were all part of the resistance. And so none of them were attending the theater. So they were performing this like 2,000 seat theater, and they were only performing for a handful of German soldiers that would wander in every night. And for the most part, the Germans let them kind of do their own thing for a while. And then a new cultural minister came into power, and he put together a season that was basically an entire season of anti-Semitic propaganda. And then these actors were faced with this dilemma. Do we continue to perform for pay and keep our livelihoods, or do we rebel? And the play is all about how they end up following the rules of resistance and staging a resistance from inside the National Theater. And it is based on a true story.
Did you have to close it early?
It was opening weekend. So the play got 3 performances. We did Friday night, Saturday night, and then we did the Sunday matinee and closed it. I have vivid memories of that weekend, our Ice Front cast and the Doll's House cast meeting up at Rojo after the performances, and all of us talking about like, well, what's going to happen here?
So let's talk about Utah. You co-founded 2 separate theater companies in Utah. So there's a Shakespeare troupe and then the Sackerson.
So Grassroots Shakespeare is a theater company that is still in operation, primarily tours to parks and festivals throughout the summer in Utah, because the summer in Utah is wonderful weather for outdoor theater. And the second company I started was called Sackerson, and Sackerson is focused on producing new scripts in unconventional locations for bold audiences.
So, and you still do some things with the people at Sackerson.
I guess it was last June, we were trying to think, what could we produce safely in this atmosphere? The science at that time, and I think still bears it out, that outdoor events that are distanced and masked are really pretty low risk environments. You know, not fully without risk, but if you have people who are outdoors and distanced and masked, the transmission rate is very low. We saw really good proof of that with all of the protesting that happened over the summer. You had extremely large groups of people, but they were outdoors and masked, not always distanced, but we didn't tend to see a corresponding uptick in transmission during those times. And so we decided to do a show outdoors. We started with the location. We decided to do a show outside of the Salt Lake City Public Library at Library Square. And it's this really beautiful spot that has kind of these low rolling hills, and there are some sculptures, and there's a walkway bridge that goes between 2 of these hills. From a previous production we had done, we had this technology where our actors were mic'd, and then we had a small portable sound booth that would take the actors' wireless signals and mix them with a soundtrack, and then wirelessly broadcast them to audience members' headphones.
I love that.
Oh my word.
And so the tickets we were selling were for the headphones. We weren't closing off the public space. The general public often stumbled upon where the performance was, but the actors weren't projecting or anything. They were just speaking to each other at normal volume. To keep things safe for the actors, the script we commissioned was about a couple, and we double cast the show. The couples actually were real life couples. They lived together. So them interacting closely in this show was not an additional risk for them. And then the third character was sort of a narrator, and they never got within 10 feet of the couple. They were commenting on the journey of this relationship as we were seeing it play out in this library square.
That's fantastic. I love the whole idea of just, for lack of another term, just popping up somewhere and doing an unusual piece and saying, hey, here we are, come watch.
It was great, and it was safe for the audience. It was safe for the actors, and artistically, I think it was a really successful experiment. And financially, it worked out well for us too. We had to purchase a bunch of equipment to make the performance work, but we covered all of our costs. We paid all of our actors. We didn't, we weren't able to pay them super well, but we paid everybody on the team, and you can still make cool stuff under really difficult conditions.
Yes. That will lead us very well to the main reason Caleb and I wanted to talk to you tonight is January of 2020, right before this craziness really started to affect everybody in the United States. Alex was hired by the Birmingham Children's Theater as the Associate Artistic Director.
I was initially hired on as the Director of Production, and then through the course of all of the staffing changes, I ended up being promoted to Associate Artistic Director.
Because when you were hired on, the staff looked like this. There were lots of people, like 8, 10 people in the office. And here is Alex. I circled him down in the corner.
I'm the one with the mustache.
And now you are down to 4, but you are making it happen. And that's why I wanted to talk to you. You guys are doing cardboard puppet theater. You've got this whole Voices of History series. You have been writing. You have been doing video work. I mean, come on. I'm so excited for you that you have been able to produce and create art during this entire crazy year. Good for you, man.
Thank you. Thank you. It has been a roller coaster.
Tell us about some of your favorite parts.
My favorite parts now are still the same that they've always been, which is I really love working with artistic teams. And over the course of the pandemic, the teams have just gotten very, very small, but that's still my favorite part. You know, I've worked a ton with Rebecca Yeager, especially over the course of the pandemic. And there she is right there.
There she is.
And
dream to work with.
She's fantastic.
I have watched some of the Voice of History, the couple things you've directed those. You wrote some of the puppet stuff, the cardboard puppet series. You guys are working your tails off.
We are exhausted. We are absolutely exhausted. I am exhausted. So at the beginning of all this, you know, I think everybody had the hope that this wouldn't last too long. So I'll say we started out the pandemic and went through like at least 3 or 4 different season plans that were all, you know, eventually completely scrapped.
Right, because we all kept thinking we're going to be able to open. We're going to be able to open, right?
And then in May, our entire staff, except for 3, including me at that point, everybody was furloughed until the PPP program allowed us to bring some of our staff back over the summer. And then so over the summer, we were trying to figure out what we could do with what we had. Because BCT, as you know, you've both worked with BCT.
Yeah, we have. We love that place. I know I do. I know Caleb does.
It's an incredible mission, and it's been for a lot of people, my generation. You grow up seeing great theater in that space, and then you get to do it, and it's a really special environment. Yeah,
it is remarkable. I mean, especially when you look at the national picture and how many theaters are able to operate at that level, children's theaters, and there are not that many in the country that operate on that kind of level. So it's a really special place.
What is that like, that transition from working for the audiences that you were working for with Grassroots and with Sackerson and transitioning to the audience that BCT has?
That is a really insightful question. Most of my experience is like working with really small, scrappy, independent theater, and BCT, you know, has this the main stage is enormous. You know, it's a 1,000-seat theater almost. I was pleasantly surprised that kind of the budgets and frameworks that I had been working on previously, I had good experience coming in because BCT, like so many institutions, just is not funded the way that it should be, just does not receive the kind of donations that it deserves. And so everybody, it doesn't matter if you're a giant theater or a small theater, it is tough. You have to be super financially scrappy no matter what level you're working on. And in terms of the audiences, I mean, you know this, Caleb, the kids are just so smart. They get things. And
little guest
hi. Hello.
Welcome. Is that your artwork that we see on the wall in the back? That rainbow is beautiful.
It is.
Very talented.
Did you come to say goodnight? Good night. I love you.
Oh.
Thank you.
Oh, see, there it is, people, with a capital P, perspective, right?
That's right.
Oh,
That's
come
right.
on, my heart just filled up and swelled in my chest. Oh.
Me too. She's the best.
So tell us the other stuff that BCT has been doing before we have to say goodnight and let you go tuck people in at your house.
So we were trying to figure out what we could do with what we had. Essentially, BCT, as you know, operates pretty heavily on guest artists. There's the full-time staff that pulls the weight they can, but you can't really wear those people out because you have to use them on like 9 shows a year. So you have to kind of restrict the lifting that they do. So over the summer, we were trying to figure out what we could do that would be beneficial to the audience and still theatrical. And Brandon Bruce, who was our artistic director, gave me an assignment to go research just a whole bunch of stuff. I stumbled upon this really great puppet show from England, and it was an adaptation of the children's book, I Want My Hat Back, and it was made entirely of cardboard. And I said, that's it. We can do puppet shows like that because we can make things out of cardboard. So Charity Sellers, who was our costume shop manager, who's just insanely talented, she ended up building all of our cardboard puppets. Essentially, they were just a couple layers of cardboard with brass brads. So you had some arm articulation or head articulation. And Rebecca Yeager, who is our resident artist at that point, performed most of these shows. I was writing the script. I wrote 3 and then directed 8 out of 10. And I designed the puppets on 7 out of 10. It was a real trial by fire figuring out how to do that. But we decided one of the sort of theatrical elements we wanted to preserve is we wanted to do them without editing. So we did them all in one take.
Nice.
We did a whole bunch of takes, but what you end up seeing when you watch those is just one take because we wanted kids to get the experience of a performance where it isn't edited.
They're so great. I hope you've seen a couple of them, Caleb. They're really precious.
They're wonderful.
And then you've started doing the Voices of History series, which is also great.
I have not directed any of those. I have not written any of those, but I have done the camera work on those. We have done Fred Shuttlesworth. We have done Ruby Bridges. We did Ada Lovelace. And we are working on one about astronaut Sally Ride. That's our next one.
See, look at you. And you guys have been doing it the whole time. And your audiences are buying tickets, or are they watching for free, or how's it working out?
Yeah, the Cardboard Puppet series, we were able to get enough grant funding to support that, so it's completely free. In the fall, we ended up doing a small touring production to schools that were still physically in session, and we also offered it as a virtual tabletop experience. And we were also able to take that show for a weekend at Avondale Amphitheater, which was really magical. So the show we did in the fall, The Girl Who Swallowed a Cactus, was a great show because it was all about an 8-year-old girl who decides to make a fort with her best friends. And so it was a single performer show to keep things safe for our performer. And all the other characters in the show were puppets, but they were made out of junk that this 8-year-old girl finds and puts together. So we did like these giant puppets for the in-person one that were like mop heads stuck in boots. And then we did a tabletop version too that was like coffee cups and salt and pepper shakers and stuff like that.
So what else do you want to tell everybody before we find out more about Mr. Ungerman?
I'll tell you about probably the most successful COVID production we've done was one called Elves. And Elves was a show that happened over Zoom. It was kids getting a virtual tour of the North Pole from a pair of real elves. Oh my word. Except our elves were located in Portland and Arkansas and Georgia and Birmingham, which was really fun. We were able to cast people from all over because we did the show over Zoom. And then we shipped them small scenic kits and lighting kits and their costumes. And that was a whole adventure too.
Oh my
But for
word.
that show, the really magical part for the kids was we gave their parents a list of items to hide around the house in advance. And then the elves would say, I am sending you a magic hat right now through our cold pull network. Go look in the coldest place in your house. Go. And the kids would run to their freezer. And in their freezer, they found a hat. And they would come back with the hat. And the elves would say, do you feel that on your head? That's what it feels like at the North Pole.
Oh my gosh.
And then they had their magic elf hats and they were inducted as honorary elves. And they used their elf magic
Okay,
and
I'm
all
gonna
these
cry.
items that
I'm gonna cry.
they
Oh
found
my
around the
God.
house to help save Christmas.
And it was an original script.
Yeah, it was inspired by a piece that La Jolla Playhouse did last summer. They did a show called The Wizards of Something Something Place. And that play was about two wizards having a wizard duel, and the wizards were casting magic spells and putting objects inside the kids' houses. I bought a ticket for that for my kids and just fell in love with this idea of having a magical scavenger hunt around your house. And I said, well, why don't we take that idea and do something about Christmas magic and elves? And we partnered with local playwright Sina Skates, who did a wonderful job putting together the script. It was very successful.
What a great fit for you. Are you thrilled with the passion, Caleb, that he talks about this stuff? Oh my gosh. I got goosebumps hearing the story about the hat in the freezer. That's crazy. I love it.
It was really magical. It was really fun.
I think it's important to say too, the production values of these things have been really wonderful. Alex, I know you said you did some videography for some of them, and that was one of the things that struck me early on. There was a lot of intentional production value in all of these.
Thank you. It's been sort of weird for me personally because I love theater so much. I am not a film person. I have a bunch of friends who do film and I love them and I love their passion for film, but it has never been my thing. I do not like being on set. For me, filmmaking gets so tedious because it is so much about getting all of those technical elements in place. Then at the last minute you bring the actors in and it's like, go, be perfect and in one or two takes. It's really aggravating. And I want to spend 95% of my time with the actors and with the audience and 5% of my time on tech. And I feel like in film, it is flipped. But I feel sort of lucky. And I did tons of film stuff in high school. In high school, I wanted to be a film director. And so I know my way around a camera. I know my way around an editing bay. And I've been able to kind of pull those skills out of my back pocket and use them during COVID.
Good for you. Alex Ungerman, everybody. I'm so glad he joined us tonight. Woo-woo! The Children's Theater is lucky to have you, sir. They really are.
Oh man, I feel super lucky to be there.
I'm so glad. I have such a great place in my heart for that theater. So I'm glad they've got you on their staff.
Well, gosh, I sure hope the Children's Theater is in a position soon to have both of you back in-house as artists as soon as we can make that happen, as soon as it fits in your schedules.
Yes, I will make time for it in my schedule. I can tell you that.
We would love that.
All right, I am ready for 10 questions. Are you ready, Caleb?
Okay.
Let's find out some silly things about Alex Ungerman before we let him go so he can tuck in and kiss goodnight his precious ones. So, all right, question number 1, sir. Very serious stuff. What is your favorite dessert?
I love the bread pudding at Brick and Tin. And I love the Basque cake at Chez Fanfan. My favorite bread pudding at Brick and Tin, they don't make anymore. They used to make fruit bread pudding. I don't know if you've ever had it, but it was so good. And now they still do a chocolate bread pudding that is knock your socks off. Get it warmed up, get it with the whipped cream. It's insane.
Question number 2. Dogs or cats?
Both, but neither right now because I have children instead of pets.
Number 3, do you still make a wish when you blow out your birthday candles?
I like the idea of making a wish, and I believe in wishing in principle. Yes.
Okay. Great.
What a great answer.
So here's number 4. If you didn't live in Alabama, where would you live?
I'm gonna change this question and say if I could live anywhere in the world, like, just independently wealthy, I would for sure live in London. I mean, it's just got the best theater scene in the world. It's just incredible.
I've never been.
Oh, Tim, you gotta go. Listen, you have to go to the National Theater. You have to go see a play at Shakespeare's Globe and stand in the yard with the groundlings. It's just unlike anything else.
Question number 5. If you could only wear one color for the rest of your life, what would that color be?
I love this question. I dress in monotone all the time. My wife teases me about it, but I pick like different colors. Like sometimes where I'll wear all blue or all black. And my son loves the color yellow, and he wears all yellow all the time. So I would probably say gray. Just then I'd match with everything.
And then you could just accessorize, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Question number 6. What did you collect as a child?
I collected Pogs. I collected bottle caps. I collected Coca-Cola memorabilia. I collected Star Trek playing cards because I am a giant nerd.
I love this.
I love collecting things, and now I collect decks of tarot cards.
Oh, I bet that's incredible.
Right
Look
here.
at him, just oh my gosh. Yes. Do you understand them all?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'll give you a tarot reading someday.
I would love that. Over coffee soon.
Yeah.
We'll be there soon. Yay. Question number 7. Are you related to anyone famous? And if so, who?
I am not related to anyone famous, but I did grow up with Donny Osmond's son.
Are you kidding me?
That's a pretty good one.
We're best buddies, and I spent a lot of time at Donnie's house as a kid. And he is 100% as nice and awesome as he looks in everything you've ever seen.
I am so glad to hear that.
I think we should change this question, Tam, to do you have the routing number of anyone? Question number 8. Sweet or salty?
Oh, both for sure. Like, one of those treats that's like salty and caramely. Yeah. Kettle corn. Yeah.
Amen.
Sure.
We just talked to Tawny, and she said she's so mad at kettle corn because
she feels very strongly against.
Like it smells one way and tastes a different way, and she was all against it.
Listen, I feel that way about desserts and about theater because my favorite types of shows are ones that like mix genres. I am not about genre consistency at all. I'm like Shakespeare, he's got tragedy one scene and then comedy the next scene. I am all about that. Give me the swirl cone.
So sweet and salty.
Sweet and salty.
Now, this is my last question of the night, okay? And I always say this, I think I know the answer, but I'm not sure. Okay. If you, very first thing you get to buy a ticket to see, musical or a straight play?
I love all theater. I'm supportive of all theater. We were talking before the show about how it's so important to support everything that's going on around you. So I'll buy a ticket to anything. I will say I grew up doing musicals, just so many musicals, like a lot of musicals, and I kind of got burned out on them at some point. And I would like to do musicals again at some point in the future. But also, I'm a terrible dancer. I can sing and I can act, but I can't dance. So I'm gonna go with straight plays.
Okay,
that's awesome. Kind of what I thought his answer would be. All right, this is our last question. So drum roll.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being a total snooze, 10 being a bag of laughs, how funny are you?
I'm like a 5.5, but it's time dependent and company dependent. Like I can be really funny late at night in the company of good friends, but on an everyday basis, I'm a 5.
Just like right in the middle of the road, 5. I don't believe it for a second. What do you think?
I wouldn't say I'm unfunny, but I also I'm somebody who just appreciates being around funny people.
That we'll see.
I totally understand that.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to be funny.
Safely. Yeah, safely 7.5. Like just like right out of your back pocket, 7.5 for sure.
Thank you. You know what? I'm that's one of those compliments that I'm gonna keep and I'm gonna carry with me for all my days.
Alex
Tam DeBolt said I was a 7.5.
Tam DeBolt says he's a 7.5. Oh my God. Thank you for being with us tonight. It's so good to see your face.
Talking to you.
Wave at the audience. Goodbye.